Welcome back to the Dad Touch podcast, and I am Jonathan, your host. You may also know me as RedBeard. However it is, I appreciate you tuning in today. Thank you so much for coming and joining me here on the podcast, the Dad Tax Podcast. Now, I've discussed in the intro and then the last episode why I started this, and I just kind of want to give a refresher as well, guys, for those of you that may be tuning in new. I have other podcasts. I've got the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. I've got a YouTube channel, and I'm helping other companies as well as they run their stuff. But I wanted to start this podcast for the particular reason that I absolutely love being a dad. It was the thing that I knew I was going to be when I was a kid growing up. I didn't know exactly what career I was going to go into, but I did know that I wanted to be a dad. And that was because I had so many amazing examples between my dad, my grandparents, and other leaders that I've had throughout my life that just showed me what it meant to be an amazing dad. And I wanted to, in turn, do the same for my kids. And I'm not perfect by any means, but I will say that after over 10 years of experience with my children, that I have learned quite a few things, and I want to share that either with the new dads out there, or maybe you're struggling. Maybe you're a dad that feels like maybe you haven't given the time to your children that maybe they deserve. Maybe you want to change that. All of those things I want to bring to you and to raise that discussion and to help other people understand that you are important in your children's lives. 100%. I feel like personally, and from what I've seen anecdotally, and also with the society that we have today, the biggest thing that seems to be lacking is present dads. Not just being in the home, not just being the breadwinner, not those are all amazing things, but actually being present for your children is of utmost importance. And your kids will tell you that whether they're throwing attitude at you or not, as teenagers or young kids, it is super important to be present for them. So today I'm going to do a little bit different. On Instagram, we've got a chat that we started, and I'm going to read off some questions that the channel it's called the Dad Tax Podcast channel. And let's see here. All right. So I'm going to read some questions off that I'm going to share with you guys the answers for. And before we get into any of that, please leave either follow if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment down below. I think Spotify is actually allowing that now as well, to drop a comment. I 100% appreciate that. And leaving reviews helps way more than you know. It gets the podcast out to other people. And last but not least, share this with other fathers, dads out there, and either tell them, hey, I appreciate you. This is something that I've come across. Maybe you can relate with. However it is, I appreciate all of those things. And now let's get into these questions here with the dads that are here in the Dad Tax Podcast. So first and foremost, let's see here. The question I asked for people to give me responses and questions was, what are some things that you struggle with as a dad? Now, I will say for me personally, some things that I struggle with is there are times where I feel like I'm stretched so thin I don't have another ounce to give. And now that's on me. That's my own fault for getting to that point. But we all reach that point at some time. And what I do in that moment is I may feel like, I want to be by myself, or I need to go do something else. And instead, I try and get the kids involved with whatever it is that I need to do. Maybe it's just one day I just need to sit down and watch a show with the kids and just relax. And I'm probably going to end up falling asleep if I do that. But I'm sitting there talking with the kids before the show comes on, snuggled in with the youngest kids and letting them know that they are important to me. Other things too, if I need some physical activity, and maybe I've gone to the gym in the morning, but I need a little bit more. Maybe I'm feeling stressed, whatever. I take the kids on a walk with me, have a talk with them. I'm not on my phone. I'm not, earphones in. I'm talking to the kids, at least until we get to the park and maybe they're playing with friends. Then maybe I'll put some headphones in or something. But on the walk itself, I'm enjoying that time with my children, and I encourage you to do that as well. So there's a lot of things we're going to get in here. First and foremost, patience. So Renato, thank you so much for putting that in there. So patience. What are some things you struggle with as a dad? Patience. So that's a hard one because it's hard without the context. But either way, having patience with your children is not always easy. There's a lot of times where kids are going to ask why more times than you want to answer, probably. And if that's the case, guess what? Answer their questions, either answer them better or just expect to have that conversation with them. Here's some things that I do. Sometimes, again, I may have just had it for the day. We'll put this scenario. This happens actually more frequently than I would hope, but it happens quite frequently here in our house where we have a set bedtime. Kids are getting ready for bed at a set time. We say our family prayers. The kids are expected to go to bed at a certain time. And more times than not, our children, at least one of them, if not both, and I say our children, we have 5, but it's mainly the 2 younger kids that get this way during bedtime. They will sit up and do everything they can to stay awake, even though they're in their beds. Our youngest son will go and play Legos downstairs in his room, and our youngest daughter will sing, and she's being extremely cute, but it's bedtime. I know they need their rest, because if they don't get their rest, they're gonna be grumpy in the morning. And I have things that I still need to do after giving them the time that I have in the afternoon for them, or throughout the entire day, depending on if it's a day off of work and school or not. And so those times are hard for me to be patient, because I feel like I know if I go downstairs and sit on the bed or lay down on the bed with my youngest son, I'm going to end up falling asleep, and I can't afford to do that. And then, our daughter trying to stay awake is something that we deal with as well. And then our older children seemingly want to have the most in-depth conversations with us, and like 10 o'clock at night and beyond. So I love that they feel open and they want to talk to us about it, but I don't always feel ready for that in those moments. So in those moments of where I need some patience, I just take a breath. If I'm starting to lose my patience, I'll say, hold on, give me 1 second. I'll go to my room, say a quick prayer, or just take a deep breath, maybe put my PJs on, and then go back in there and understand that this is the time that my children are reaching out to me, wanting my time, and they, more than anyone else in this world, deserve that. On top of that, you only have a solid, I wouldn't even say 18 years. I'd say more like 14 years with your kids before they start wanting to go off and spend time with their friends more often than not. They're driving. They're then starting to date at 16 and beyond, when they could drive and go out on dates. They're wanting to do things that don't involve mom and dad. So those things help me remember that when I'm losing my patience a little bit with the kids, I'm not going to have this time forever. I'm not. And that, more than anything, helps me out. Just reflecting on the fact that this is very limited time. If my kids are asking for my attention, they absolutely need me in that moment. And I try and make an effort to be a little bit more patient with them. All right, let's see. So definitely, okay, so again, the question is, what are some things you struggle with as a dad? The next one is definitely that line between supporting and protecting them versus letting them grow and learn. It's much easier with my sons than my girl. Man, that's a hard one too, because I would agree it's easier to let their sons fail and get hurt, when they're out playing football or soccer or doing dumb things around the house. It's definitely easier, I feel like, to let my sons do that than to see my daughters fail or get hurt. So walking that fine line there, let's talk a little bit about that, because that is super important. First and foremost, letting them fail and get hurt. Jordan Peterson had an amazing quote, and I'm going to end up butchering it, but I highly recommend you go and check this out. Jordan Peterson says, let them do dangerous things in a safe environment, if that makes sense. So obviously age appropriately, but for example, if my 10-year-old or whatever, say they're learning to ride a bike, right? Sometimes let them fall, but don't necessarily let them fall in the middle of the road where a car could possibly run over them, or on a pile of rocks where they can hurt themselves even more, or going down a steep hill where they could end up getting more injured than just simply falling off a bike. As they get older, the failures and hurt seems to become more mental and emotional rather than necessarily physically, unless they're playing some physical sports. But when your daughter, in this instance, has her first heartbreak, that is hard to not want to just go strangle the guy and make him disappear. That's going to happen. Also, your kids may fail at a job. They may fail at a job interview. They may go through school and end up failing a class and have to take it over again. There's so many things that they could end up learning the hard lesson of running out of gas and not paying attention to the gas tank or gas gauge and running out of gas and being stranded for a little bit. There's a lot of things that go into that. And I would agree it's hard to let your children get hurt and learn from their mistakes. What I've learned is that even with our own children, when we have continued to rescue, quote unquote, our children from certain things, they don't end up getting that learning experience that they would if they had gone through it themselves. So that is super important to remember, that you are here as a dad. You are here to, part of being a dad is being a friend, but a good friend doesn't always fix things and provide the solution. Sometimes you just have to sit there and be the parachute or the safety net whenever they do fall, and letting them fall enough to where it scares them or it may bruise them when they hit that safety net, but that they fall enough to learn that they don't want to do those things again. Again, that could be everything from actually physically getting hurt doing something stupid, all the way to a breakup or learning from school or from work that they might have failed at something, which causes, a failure in a class, or getting fired from work and having to find a new job. There is no easy answer to that other than be there for them, love them unconditionally, and in the moment that they do fail, don't rehash that with them. Don't tear them down for it. Don't rub it in their face. Don't say, I told you so. Let them learn, and then have a conversation with them about what they learned from that, because your I told you so isn't going to fix anything after it's already happened. So definitely recommend letting them fail, letting them get hurt to a degree in a safe environment, letting them do dangerous things. All right, let's go on to the next one. Letting her grow and explore without stopping her as she learns. In other words, doing dangerous stuff carefully. Yeah, so I just went over that as well. Just letting your children learn, letting them grow from doing things that may be dangerous. That is a huge deal. You definitely want to make sure they're doing it in a safe environment. Say, again, rock climbing, you want to make sure you're there when they're doing their first rock climbing. You want to make sure they have proper safety equipment on. But if they fall and they end up banging their leg against the wall or something like that, that's enough that they're going to remember that and learn from that experience. So that's hard to do. But your kids will 100% respect you and appreciate you and come to you when they realize they've screwed up more as they get older, if you allow them to have those failures on their own and not always try and fix something for them, but being there for them when they need it, when they come to you asking for it. That is the most important. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Giving my son the best guidance to choose the right path in life when I didn't have that growing up. Man, that's hard. I'll say something on that. Divorce runs pretty rampant in my family, for example. And the thing that I said when I got married was, that's not an option. That will not ever be an option, except for some extravagant, crazy. There's very, very few things that would allow a divorce, in my opinion. One of them being threatening the children, threatening my life in some degree or fashion, and my children's lives more than anything. I think those are really it. Outside of that, you can work through pretty much anything, guys. So that's what I said, was divorce is not an option. And that's something that's not an example that I had necessarily from my family growing up. So I definitely get that, wanting to teach your kids differently. For me, it is 100% important for my kids to learn things that I didn't have growing up. Now, more specifically to the question here, let's see. So The best guidance to choose the right path in life. There's so many choices in life that it's hard to have one right path. I will say that. Having one right path, I don't know if that necessarily exists, because there's always forks in the road. If you choose this way, you may learn something that will take you down a whole nother path that might be better than the other way, of the safe way, and going down that different path. Maybe you would enjoy both. Maybe this one is more enjoyable. Who knows? But depending on, without having any specifics in this question, the best thing to do is live the example that you want to set for your kids. In other terms, live the example for your son that you would have wanted to have as a child. As you've learned going into adulthood, the things that you've learned to be better and that you would want for him. That can be difficult, but there are definitely resources out there. There's a lot of dad groups. There's other leaders in your life that I'm sure can show you that example if you have questions about it. But more than anything, what you've learned that you don't want your son to have in his life that maybe you were lacking, or that you do want your son to have in his life that maybe you were lacking, that is super important. Make sure that you provide that for him in your own way. There is a reason why you are his dad. I firmly believe that as well. That is not an accident. So take advantage of that and teach him the things that you wish you had as a kid growing up. Time with the family that you struggle with. So the biggest thing with that is recognize that the things that you don't do are just as important as the things that you do. And what I mean by that is, are you scheduling time for your family? Because there's so many things in life that are going to take you away from your family, from the things that matter most to you. And if you don't schedule time to be with your family, then you're showing them that you're not a priority. Now, I don't know your specific circumstances in this situation, so maybe elaborate that on that a little bit. If you do hear this podcast, elaborate on that for me. Send me a message. But more than anything, make sure that you know that you have created the time for your family. And it may not always be the most productive, but making time, not hoping that there will be time, not letting there be time, creating a set time in your schedule for your family is of utmost importance. And hey, if you work night shift, for example, or you have an odd shift, go pick your kids up from school and take them to lunch. I know that's the coolest thing ever for a parent to take a kid out to lunch, and they get to go eat lunch outside of school lunch, or a packed home lunch. They get to go out and eat with their parents. Go do that. Go take them for a walk individually. Go make time for your family. Make the time. That is super important, and it will show them how much you love them. Last but not least, creativity on new fun activities on a daily basis. Creativity on a new fun activity on a daily basis. So I don't think you necessarily have to be new and fun every single day. Your kids just want your attention. Sometimes it is just the standard, let's go to the park again. Be creative every once in a while, because eventually you will run out of creativity. I know I do. I'm not the most creative person out there, but what I do know is that my kids want my attention. They love my attention, and being able to take them out, whether it be on dates, to the movies, just sit down conversations one-on-one with them, and letting their siblings know that it is their time, that means so much to them. So I'd say find a game that they like, board game, puzzles, whatever, card game, play that with them and have a conversation with them, so it doesn't feel like an interview or a lecture every time you talk to them. That could be super creative as well. Other things, find out what they're really passionate about, what they enjoy. And you may not enjoy that, but guess what? They don't always enjoy the things that you enjoy. So at least pretend to enjoy it, make some time for them, go and do those activities with them, and they will appreciate that more than anything. All right, guys. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Come join me over on the Instagram channel so that you can figure out or ask me questions that you have based on the Dad Tax podcast. Take some time from your family. More than anything, this is what I'm learning, is that you guys need to make the time, just like I do every single day. We need to be better and make the time for our families. Make the time. Don't just hope it happens. Don't just let it happen. Make the time. So all of that to be said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Dad Tax podcast. Have an amazing rest of your week and weekend. Show your family you love them. And remember that nothing great comes free. make the time, make it happen. Have a great rest of your day. And like I always say, get out, live your life, and love it.